All right, now let's go over to Joey at the touchscreen for an in-depth look at these mysterious drone sightings. Joey, what can you tell us?
Yeah, guys, so we don't have a lot we can tell you, but we can zoom in and point out some things. So first thing I want to look at is here's the United States, right? And these are the places where the drones are being spotted in high concentration. And so I just want to point out, when you look at Florida, California, and then here in what we call the DMV, D.C., Maryland, Virginia area, what do those places have in common? There are a lot of military bases in those places. That's where the majority of our military bases are. And then you come up here to this northeast area, and what does that have in common? High concentration of people and things that emit frequencies. And so that's one of the first things we look at here is they're being spotted in places that could be sensitive. And then we move on and we look just here in the northeast and look at some of the places specifically that these have been spotted. We're talking about Picatinny Arsenal Military Base, a very sensitive place. Trump National Golf Club in Bedminster. We look over here, we see Naval Weapons Station, Earl Joint Base, McGuire, Dix, Lakehurst. And what we worry here is when we have Kirby come out and Mayorkas, they've never lied to us about anything, but when they come out and say, we don't know what these are, well, that discredits the safest and best theory right now, which is that this is U.S. testing what our capabilities are, what our defense mechanisms are. So those two things go against each other, and that leaves us all wondering either that the government doesn't know or they're not telling us the truth. And then the pictures we get, the videos, are not very good. The only reason I want to point this out is one point was made. I saw it on Twitter. I've seen it, or X, and I've seen it from the other experts. And it's this idea that if these are nefarious in nature, why are they using their navigational lights at nighttime? Wouldn't they want to be stealthy? It's a really, really good point. And then you see this is actually a second picture, and this is the quality we're getting, so it's hard to make much of it. And then we move on here to some characteristics. This is all through the reports. We haven't downed one to look at it and see this. This is the supposed characteristics of the majority of these drones. They're 6 to 10 foot in diameter, which is pretty large. We've heard as large as an SUV. And then many of these quadcopter drones are pretty small. They're flying above the FAA's 400-foot height regulation, but they're flying low and slow, so radars don't pick them up. And they're so small, even at 6 foot in diameter, if a radar did pick it up, it would register more like a bird, and it wouldn't alarm anything. One report says they don't give off heat, which not sure what you can draw from that other than what type of power source does it have and what type of payload. Is it a camera, a weapon, delivering a package? What's in it? And then lastly, we have these colorful blinking lights, which again makes us question, well, if it's nefarious, if it's spying, why would it give itself away? I'm going to give you my opinion, my synopsis, is that it's a little bit of all the above. Drones are not just the warfare of the future, they're the way of the future. How we receive things, how we see things, how we do safety on job sites. Drones are used in so many facets and so many industries already today, and AI technology is only going to expedite that quite a bit. So this is really the precipice of the technology that we've come to in this century, in this last decade, and I think that these sightings are indicative of all the things. Some of them are airplanes. Some of them are U.S. or commercial drones. There was a Chinese citizen using a drone over a military base. There have been multiple military bases here and abroad who have reported this, feel like they're getting their airspace invaded by a drone of unknown origin. All these things are happening. We're just looking up more now. So are those 5,000 tips all bogus? No. Were they able to trace some of them to an origin that isn't scary or need explanation? Maybe. I don't trust the FBI that much either.
Well, if they don't know, that's terrifying. And if they do know and they're not telling us, they better get us some answers. Great deep dive there, Joey.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.
There's been more drone sightings across the country. The latest report in New York, New Jersey, and Maryland. The White House says there is no evidence the reported drones pose any threat, but that's doing little to calm concerns. People in Southern California are also reporting mysterious drone sightings, and one person captured video of lights over Temecula. Eyewitness News reporter Jessica DeNova has more.
There are drones all over the sky.
This video shows strange lights hovering over Old Town Temecula. Damon Angel, who goes by the name Nomad, says he's been watching them since last week and recorded this video Tuesday night.
There was a couple that were really really close, and they were about the size of a car. Everybody keeps saying that. It's probably getting annoying now, but they are giant drones. Like, they're not little, and they move really fast.
Eyewitness News cannot confirm what these videos show, but we found several people who say they saw similar lights.
These 3 lights that were in a sort of a triangle kind of formation, an odd looking thing, and I'm thinking that doesn't look like a plane. It started flying erratically.
Witnesses at first thinking it was aircraft heading to nearby Camp Pendleton.
You could hear them, and you couldn't hear this thing.
Angel says he's uneasy after seeing 5 zip over his head toward the Pacific Ocean.
You know, it's just kind of scary to think, like, who's watching, and the fact that we contacted the sheriffs. The Murrieta PD commented on a post of mine. Nobody knows whose they are.
This following reports of similar sightings this month in the Northeast, now under investigation by local, state, and federal authorities. A spokesperson with the FAA tells Eyewitness News the activity has more people looking up and noticing what's flying overhead, adding, pilots don't need special permission from the FAA to fly drones provided they operate as recreational flyers or under the FAA's small UAS rule and follow all the applicable provisions. Unless drones are breaking rules or regulations, they are not investigated. An FAA spokesperson saying they'll work with their local counterparts and the FAA should any reports come their way.
A spokesperson with the Riverside County Sheriff's Department tells us they've not received any calls reporting drones.
Hello, I'm Mark Brown. Get more great ABC7 content by clicking the subscribe button for our YouTube channel and download the ABC7 Los Angeles streaming app on Fire TV, Android TV, Apple TV, and Roku to watch on your TV.
First on the East Coast, now mysterious objects are being spotted on the West Coast, Temecula to be specific, leaving residents buzzing.
Christy Fajardo joining us live with the update there. Christy.
Yeah, Christine and Susan, is very much a mystery. The Biden administration has said that multiple agencies, including the FBI, are investigating the sightings, but says it's possible that much of what people are seeing are actually manned aircraft. But people who live here in Temecula say they're used to seeing helicopters and planes from nearby Camp Pendleton, and they say what they saw was quiet, and one had the video to prove it.
I think the public has a right to know what is flying above the skies and what the purpose is.
This is what Brian Dirk saw over his Temecula backyard yesterday evening, but he's not the only one who saw it. There are multiple social media videos just like his from South Riverside County, and listen closely. Witnesses say whatever it was didn't make a sound.
We saw 2 that came directly overhead our backyard in South Temecula here, and then we've seen a bunch across the horizon.
I looked up because it was coming now right over top of me, and it was quiet. It didn't make any noise.
Melinda Peters saw them last night too in Temecula, which is a mountain range away from Camp Pendleton. The Marine Base sent a written statement that reads in part, "We are aware of the drones that are flying over Temecula. They are not associated and do not impact Camp Pendleton's training and operations." But the base command did not elaborate on who might be flying them.
I don't think that it's regular off-the-shelf drones that are being flown around, at least here. Based on what we saw, it was a pretty good size, almost the size of like maybe a smaller vehicle, a car.
It's similar to videos taken in the skies above New Jersey last month.
Yeah, that's no plane.
Prompting security concerns and this response from the Biden administration.
These are not U.S. military drones. What our initial assessment here is that these are not drones or activities coming from a foreign entity or adversary.
But in Temecula, people we spoke with say they are certain they saw drones and just want to know if a business or a government agency or who else might be behind them.
You would think that they'd let people know, so that, because like I said, it's become this big thing.
So you heard Camp Pendleton says those drones were not theirs. We also reached out to the Forest Service because the Cleveland National Forest is nearby. They say it wasn't them either. SoCal Edison does confirm they did fly drones yesterday, but they say that was near Menifee and Murrieta and not after dark, so you can rule them out as well. The one agency, though, we have not heard back from is the FAA. We'll keep you posted. Live in Temecula, I'm Chrissy Fajardo. Let's send it back to you.
New tonight, after a wave of mysterious drone sightings in New Jersey, people are concerned and demanding answers, but the government isn't saying much. Now similar sightings are being reported here in San Diego and across Southern California. CBS 8's Brian White has the details.
This is over my house right now. What is that?
It's a question puzzling New Jersey residents looking up at the sky.
They're just pacing back and forth, going very slow.
Since last month, dozens of drones mysteriously hovering in the Jersey skies at night. Olivia DiMatteo owns a coffee shop near where the drones have been spotted.
They are the size of small cars, like almost like a Mini Cooper or a Ford Escape size.
There is a bunch of red lights floating in the sky.
This video was taken by archaeologist Colin Rambo a couple weeks ago in Lemon Grove.
I was driving down the street, just right down the street from my house here, and I pulled my car over because I saw what looked like a fleet of glowing red orbs.
Last night, someone called our CBS 8 newsroom with reports of a large drone sighting above the SR 125 freeway.
There are drones all over the sky.
And this video was taken 3 nights ago in Temecula.
We eventually saw one really fairly close, and it was just about the size of a car. We were at some points right under them, and there was no noise at all.
Music artist and producer It's Nomad Music said these didn't seem like regular planes or helicopters.
They'll be going just straight one direction, and then all of a sudden they'll just zag and then keep going or turn around, or they just break really quick.
I reached out to the Riverside County Sheriff's Office. They confirmed the drones were not law enforcement's, and a spokesperson for Camp Pendleton told me they're aware of recent drone activity in surrounding communities, but that, quote, no military unmanned aerial systems training or activity has occurred during the time or place in question. Meanwhile, in Lemon Grove, looking back, Colin thinks what he saw could have been paper lanterns in the air, but he's not sure.
With everything that's going on in the news, all these sightings, just please look up at night, you know? The more we look up, the more chances we'll have to see what's out there.
Brian White, CBS 8.
Reports of nighttime drone sightings have now spread to more U.S. states, and onlookers are expressing concern. The mystery is now prompting some action from the Federal Aviation Administration.
And I'm driving into Montclair, and all of a sudden, right over the horizon, I see what looks like the full moon. Only it can't be the full moon because the full moon was 2 weeks ago. And all of a sudden the moon is starting to move to my left and it's heading towards me. And then all of a sudden I'm like, no, it's not the moon. Maybe it's a plane. And no, it doesn't look anything like a plane. It's way too big and it's way too low in the sky and it's the middle of the night. Then I think maybe it's a helicopter. No, it's not a helicopter. Then suddenly it gets closer and it's hovering right over the trees and it looks like, I guess, an enormous drone? I'm not even sure what I've never seen anything like it. It's just a drone on steroids.
We need to have our legislation keep pace with the laws and the operation of drones. It has not, right? We know that the FAA and the federal government is solely in charge of the airways and of the drone operations as we see it today. We're calling upon Congress, and Congressman Smith is leading the way, to modify legislation so that not just 3 federal agencies are able to have drone detection and de-drone equipment, right? To be able to put that hands in the state policing units around the country. This is a national public safety and security issue. Right? If they aren't foreign drones, then it is a state public safety issue. In order for the state to react, state policing units from around the country will need new technology to detect drones, recreational or commercial. They will need laws that assist them in being able to de-drone. Commercial or retail regulation all have to show up on some type of map, so that our first responders know that they're there. So the FAA has to step up. They have to integrate that technology for drone detection into the FAA maps that we see today. They're the only ones that have the technology, they're the only ones that have the law, and they're the only ones that can come in here and identify the sources. Because again, at the state level, county and local, we don't have that tech, we don't have the authority to even take one of these down.
When we started to get these reports at the 911 center from local PDs, we went out and we decided to do a drone patrol, more or less. And we took our tethered drone. At that time, Sergeant Fennessy, who's an experienced drone operator and pilot, and Officer D'Amico spotted one of the items that brought us concern. They videotaped it as far as they were. They got some tape on it. They described it as going around their drone and traveling off at a high rate of speed. They reported to us that it was, they felt it was 60 miles an hour or more. And it put it in perspective, our drones only go about 40 miles an hour. We got notified by our 911 center there was concern of a sighting in Island Beach State Park. We responded. We met an officer, a certified New Jersey law officer, not from our department, from another agency. And that officer did an excellent job. She documented. That's where you're getting the reports of 50 drones coming off the ocean. That's what she reported seeing. She was on duty at the time, and she reports that she saw 50 drones coming from the ocean to the mainland, transversing the airways over Island Beach State Park, going down towards Barnegat Light and coming to the seaside area. Obviously, they want us to know they're there. They put on their lights. So who it is, I wish I could tell you. We don't know. We keep telling, everybody says, well, it's the government. I don't know, but I think the government has a responsibility, in my opinion, that if it is them, just tell us and we'll be happy about it.
The elusive maneuvering of these drones, I would suggest a major military power sophistication that begs the question whether they have been deployed to test our defense capabilities, or worse, by violent dictatorships, perhaps maybe Russia or China or Iran or North Korea. I mean, they have the capability, and they certainly have the motive. The Pentagon has said the drones are not ours.
So I had this video finished and finalized, these drones over New Jersey and other locations, but come to find out there was an update, so I had to go back and re-edit this video. Come to find out the United States is now blaming Iran for these drones. They say there's a drone mothership now off the East Coast. And you mean to tell me it took all that time to figure out that these drones come from Iran? And these drones were flying all over the country, like I said, all over New Jersey and other locations, even in other countries like the United Kingdom. And the best they can say is that, well, it comes from a mothership from Iran, which is off the East Coast of the United States. Now, I'm going to go ahead and play this news clip, and then the rest of the video, which I recorded earlier before this news broke out, is going to play directly after this news clip.
I'm going to tell you the real deal. Iran launched a mothership probably about a month ago that contains these drones. That mothership is off, I'm going to tell you the deal. It's off the East Coast of the United States of America. They've launched drones, is everything that we can see or hear. And again, these are from high sources. I don't say this lightly. Now, you know, we know there was a probability it could have been our own government. We know it's not our own government because they would have let us know. It could have been some really glorified hobbyist or hobbyists that were doing something unbelievable. They don't have the technology. But let's pretend that's possible. The third possibility was somebody, an adversarial country, doing this. Know that Iran made a deal with China to purchase drones, motherships, and technology in order to go forward. The sources I have are good. They can't reveal who they are because they are speaking to me in confidentiality. These drones should be shot down. Whether it was some crazy hobbyist that we can't imagine, or whether it is Iran, and I think it very possibly could be, they should be shot down. We are not getting the full deal, and the military is on alert with this.
A Chinese national living in Brentwood was arrested at San Francisco International Airport, accused of flying a drone over Vandenberg Space Force Base. The 39-year-old man, identified as Yin Piao Zhou, was apprehended before boarding a flight to China. Base security detected the drone on November 30th, flying at high altitude for nearly an hour. Investigators found aerial photographs of the base on the drone. If convicted, Zhou faces up to 4 years in prison.
Oh boy, another story that makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. So you mean to tell me after all this time, and I'm talking about going back a year, when the Pentagon said that there were unidentified drones flying over military Air Force bases, they could not track them, they could not bring them down. After all this time, now they are finally able to track one small drone flying over a military installation right back to a Chinese national. Do you buy this story? So after all this time, they're trying to figure out where these drones are coming from. We even had a very recent story in New Jersey where the FBI are saying they need the public's help because they just cannot figure where these drones are coming from, whether they are foreign adversaries or so forth. We had a story going back to November 27th or 26th, I believe, where this Chinese national was arrested for flying a drone over a military installation. And now all of a sudden, when there is real pressure from the public to answer as to why they cannot resolve this drone issue, track or bring them down, now we get a news story coming out that they can track drones and they are tracking them back to China. Very, very convenient timing for this story to come out when we have people asking questions like this.
You're telling me we don't know what the hell these drones are in New Jersey are? Is that correct?
That's right.
It's crazy. I mean, that's crazy. That's madness that we don't know what these drones are.
Today, we heard from a member of the FBI, the DOJ, Border Patrol, and even a rep from the NFL, all of whom say that their operations in some way or another have been hampered by drones coming into the United States. And while several of these entities talked about drones that come from criminal organizations or our adversaries, like Mexican drug cartels or the Chinese government, for example, it was pretty clear that the drones flying over New Jersey at this point are still unknown. Lawmakers at times were frustrated the FBI and other agencies couldn't tell them more about what these things are or where they come from. The FBI only saying it seems as though right now they don't pose a threat. Several members asked whether we could just bring one down.
Let's go get that DOD capability and find out and put to rest the question, who is it? We can bring one down tomorrow.
But it became pretty clear that as lawmakers continued to ask more questions about these drones over New York and New Jersey, federal agencies didn't have answers for them.
You're telling me?
And I said, I know you have the capability, you've put out press releases, to identify and bring down drones. Why can't you deploy them, at least to the ocean? Bring one of these down, find out who's doing it. They have the capability. They said, well, we don't have the authority, only within the parameters of our base. Well, there's a national interest here. Our jets fly over the ocean all the time for training, so that perimeter is larger. So I did write Secretary Lloyd Austin asking that capability that may be sitting in a closet somewhere. I know they use it all the time, but bring it out. And I'm not saying you got to share it with the sheriffs. It'd be nice. Just do it yourself.
So now that these videos are coming out and people are asking questions, and the FBI, they are saying they are stumped and they are looking silly, the military is looking silly that they cannot track and trace these drones. Now we are getting these news stories coming out that they are tracking these drones back to China. So this individual, his name is Zhao. He was at Oceans Park away from the military installation, but he was still flying his unregistered drone over the military base. And like I said, security personnel were able to track his location and go back to the park and talk to him. Now, Oceans Park is about 30 minutes away from the San Francisco International Airport. He was able to make it to the airport. He was about to board his flight back to China, and then he was arrested. I don't know why it took so long to arrest him, but it did. But we were getting stories coming from the Pentagon that back in 2023, there were all these unidentified drones flying over Air Force bases, right next to very important aircraft and equipment like F-22s, and they were doing nothing about it. They were not tracking or tracing these drones, or more importantly, taking them down, given the fact of where they were flying. Then we got a story that came out that these drones were seen flying over an Air Force base in Indiana, and then very recently we had another story come out that these unregistered drones, these unidentified drones, were flying over multiple Air Force bases in the United Kingdom. It seemed like it was a real problem that the government, the military, had absolutely no solution to track these drones. So here's what I'm thinking. I am thinking that this whole drone story is one of two things. Either one, it's a distraction, and people in the public, foreign adversaries, spies, and so forth, they are constantly hearing in the news how the government, the military, and even the FBI, they cannot do anything about these drones. They can't track them, they can't trace them, and again, they cannot bring them down. And so people in the public, and again, foreign adversary, spies, and so forth, are taking advantage of what they are hearing in the news, and they are deciding to fly their own unregistered drones, thinking they can't get caught. But they do not realize that they are not a part of the distraction. They are not a part of the script. I always found it rather odd that the Pentagon came out and told the public that they cannot track, trace, or bring down drones that are flying over military installations. Wouldn't that be more classified information, because that makes them seem rather weak? I mean, that's just my opinion anyway. But if this is not a distraction, if it's not a script, and I highly believe it is, now just because it's a distraction with these drones does not mean that there's something really going on in the skies. Something could be really making itself known or present, or something could be happening. They are using these drones to say, hey, look at these, don't look at that. That's always possible, because there are some really strange things being captured currently that are, don't look like drones, but that's always a possibility that these drones are a cover story for something else. But going back to what I was saying, if this is not a script or a distraction, then this story proves that these drones that they cannot track are very sophisticated, are very advanced, and are not drones that can be bought and sold to the public. New Jersey's Governor Phil Murphy, who was quiet for quite some time when it came to these drones, he's now speaking out and saying that the drones circling the skies above his state are very sophisticated, noting that the minute that you get your eyes on them, they go dark. But this story of this Chinese national being arrested for flying his drone, his unregistered drone, over a military installation proves that these drones that people are seeing that can't be traced or tracked are very advanced and not coming from the public. And again, like a lot of theories are stating, that this may be military. It might be coming from the military within. Now, I don't believe that the drones that the government can't trace or track are from China or Russia, because again, the Pentagon told us they were flying over military airspaces. And if the military truly believed they were coming from China or Russia, they would have taken those right out. They would have taken those right down. And because they do not want to take these drones out, means that they know where these drones are coming from and that these are their drones. So then the question happens to be, why is there a psychological campaign against the public? Well, I strongly believe that we are seeing the makings, the beginnings of Project Bluebeam. This could even be a version, a more advanced version of Project Bluebeam in the making. Now, I do want to go ahead and make sure I say this is for entertainment purposes only, for YouTube reasons, but this definitely comes off like something psychological that's being played on the public.
Is there any military activity out straight ahead of us?
No, we're not seeing anything. I had another one report at like 30,000 feet in the Eugene area. We're not sure what it is.
Yeah, there's lots moving out there.
1596, yeah, they're looking into it.
We're seeing 3 or 4 targets. They're all altitudes, up and down. It's pretty crazy. There was some at 30 probably. I mean, they're shooting away up. We say maybe up to the 50s, it looks like.
Is there traffic actually out about our 2 to 3 o'clock, about, 20, 30 miles?
No, is that the 4 different lights going up and down? I'm getting a few reports, but you're seeing it right in front of you now too as well?
It's 2 to 3 o'clock up, about 2 to 3 o'clock from our position. Looks about 20 miles going in circles.
Medevac 1 Lima Foxtrot. Yeah, we're not seeing anything. Getting lots of different reports out there. Some at 30, some all the way up to 50,000. About 3 or 4 different lights. Does it look like they're around your altitude now?
No, there's one way up high and one about my altitude. Moving in like a circle, like a corkscrew pattern. All right, I'm visually have eyes on what looks like an aircraft strobe that's at my 2 o'clock and 22 miles at my altitude, and I'm actually showing him on TCAS. Do you see that one?
Medevac 1 Lima Foxtrot. I do not.
He looks like he's moving towards, it looks like it's moving towards the north. Like I said, 22 and a half miles off my right wing. Just had another one show up about my 1 o'clock, about 1,000 feet high, zipping towards us and then back out towards the ocean. It's red in color, moving at extreme speeds. I don't even know how to describe how fast he's moving. 661 Lima Fox.
Critical Lima Foxtrot, Roger. You are cleared to maneuver as necessary, left and right, to avoid the UFO out there.
It's weird. It's a red circular shape, and it keeps zipping out towards the ocean, and then coming back in about, I don't know, 20 miles or closer to us, and then it zips back out of the ocean, and we can't see it.